The picture quality of these photos is not very good, and the reason why is because they are from 2001. As a matter of fact, back in 2001, I got my first Mustang, and I had taken a lot of pictures of it with the same type of camera quality. It kind of reminds me of how in the older days you'd see black and white pictures or very terrible pictures of older cars, and that makes this actually pretty cool in my opinion. We are looking at original pictures from 2001, and you know what they say, a picture is worth 1,000 words, even more sometimes. And if you look past the extremely excited wife sitting in the front seat of the newly purchased Saleen, you can see that there are a bunch of Ford vehicles of the same era, showing you that this picture was taken at the dealership back when this car was new. I think that's really cool. Now, this was over 20 years ago, and I can see it in the pictures. It's actually interesting for me to have lived in this era and be able to see it as an older era. Now, as time has gone on, and there's new Coyote Mustangs, GT500s, all sorts of cars everywhere. But these pictures really do look specifically time period correct. And I really love looking at these pictures because it actually takes me back. It's making me feel a little old, but I'm very blessed to have grown up in that time. As a kid, when I started getting into cars, I really loved the old muscle cars, and I felt bad that I didn't grow up in the muscle car era. But as the SN95 and New Edge Mustangs came out, I fell completely in love with these cars, and I can tell you I am 100% satisfied and absolutely excited to have grown up with what I consider the best generation of the Ford Mustang, and I love these cars, and to me these are some of the greatest cars ever made. I know the new ones are engineered really well and they do things better and faster, but I love this era. Just like older people have their GT500s and Mach 1s and cars from the 60s that they're absolutely fanatic about, I am in love with these cars, and to me, these cars mean the world to me. So what's the story behind this specific Saleen? Well, it was actually purchased brand new in Oregon by a car collector who had old classic cars like a 55 T-Bird and a 72 F250, and he referred to this car as a classic, and it really is a modern classic, and in my opinion, it's the greatest car he has ever owned. This Saleen is extremely documented, and we're going to look at those documents. And among those documents are the original sales sheet, which shows that this Saleen was purchased with the $10,000 markup. So it was a $46,000 car back in 2001, with the original price at $36,000. So it shows that the owner of this car really wanted it, and they paid top dollar for it. This is the supercharged version of the S281 Saleen, and it made 365 horsepower. So back in 2001, this is before the 0304 Cobra Terminators came out that made 390, and 365 is pretty good for a 2-valve. Back then, the only thing Ford had at the time that was close in comparison was the 2001 Mustang Cobra. And the '01 Cobra made about 320 horsepower, and although it was tested around the 14-second quarter-mile range, there were some magazines that got them into the mid-13s, about 13.6. And of course, there was the 2000 Cobra R with limited production of 300 units, so very rare to even see one. Even as one of the best Mustangs to ever come out of Ford, this was rated at 385 horsepower and claimed it ran a 13.2 second quarter mile with a 5.4 liter dual overhead cam V8. Now, some people claim to have gotten them into the 12s, so roughly similar, because this S281 was rated with the supercharger at 365 horse and a 13.0 quarter mile. So very, very close, and for the money, even with the markup, it still was less than what a Cobra R cost. So for its day in 2001, like I said before the Terminator Cobras came out, this was one of the greatest cars you could buy. Now, how did this car come into the collection where it is now? You can see it now proudly sitting next to a zinc yellow '03 Mustang Cobra, and it's in a very nice garage. And this car belongs to my friend Evan. Evan and I have talked back and forth quite a bit over the years. I've even talked about some of his other Mustangs before in the stories series on my YouTube channel. If you recall, I talked about his father's 2004 Competition Orange Saleen S281 Mustang. And I was talking about that car as I did the story about the one of one '04 Cobra that was a Saleen Terminator in Competition Orange. And I showed the picture of his dad's car at the dealership when it was brand new. And that was how he came in contact with me and told me that was actually his dad's car, and he still has it, and it's a beautiful low mileage car. So as you can tell, Evan has been very lucky to grow up in a family with really neat cars and Mustangs, and Evan always loved the Terminator Cobras and the Saleens, and so he wanted to get one for himself. So his dad actually found the black Saleen on the Auto Trader, and it was nearby in Oregon. Evan and his dad live in Washington, which is only about 165 miles away. So one Saturday morning, they decided to get up and go look at the car together. And when they got there and saw the car in person, they were absolutely impressed. This car looked brand new. The original owner had always changed the oil every year. He kept everything absolutely stock. He followed far behind other cars to make sure not to get any rock chips. This is an example of a beautiful car and how nice one can be when it's taken care of. You can see the floor mats and pedals, everything's still there. Shift knob, gauges, all the specific Saleen things, absolutely kept the way that someone should keep a car. You can see the gauges on top of the dash, everything is there. This is a perfect example of what you could only wish to come across when you go to look at a Mustang for sale, especially a beautiful low mileage example. This car only had 12,764 miles on it when Evan and his dad arrived to look at the car. It was absolutely beautiful. The original one-owner vehicle had never seen rain, not even once. And like I said, he followed farther behind other cars to prevent rock chips, kept it clean, kept it garaged. This was the perfect example of buying a high-quality collector car. 12,000 miles is very low. I know it's not a rapper car, it's not a sub-500-mile car, but it is definitely a perfect example of a very nice car that when you look at it, it looks brand new. In fact, Evan had said that this was the nicest New Edge Mustang he had ever seen in his life. The owner said that he would change the oil every year and only used Mobil 1. So I feel that's a great choice. That's what I use in my Mustangs as well. We'll take some closer looks at the car, even underneath it for a minute. But as you can see here in Oregon, the license plate says "was up." And that's even on the original sales documentation, that it was a personalized plate. And Evan liked that so much that he actually ordered the exact same personalized plate in Washington. So here's looking underneath the car. You can see it's absolutely beautiful. The owner actually had a lift that the car was on, and you can look under here. You can see everything looked fine. There's factory rust on the dog bone there and the drive shaft. That's normal. You can see it has undercoating on the car as well. So that's an option that helped preserve the car. But even at that, you can see how beautiful this car looks. It's a very nice example. Even the transmission looks very clean and all factory. Everything under here is all original, how it left Saleen. And so no rust on the bolts or hardware. Very nice looking car. This is exactly what you want to see when you go to buy a car. And here's a picture of the odometer with the 12,764 miles on it when they looked at the car originally. So this car is really neat. It's even been back to Steve Saleen. We'll look at some of these pictures and even a short video of Saleen sitting in it and talking with him about the car, about how nice it is. So looking in the trunk of the car, we find an Eagle One bag, which has the Saleen logo on it, and it's signed by Steve. And this has some car care products inside. Pretty cool to see that. A lot of times, these are the things that other owners keep when they sell the car or somehow just gets stashed in the garage somewhere. So pretty fun to see all of that. If you look closely, you'll even see the Saleen Mustang on the bottle. So that's pretty cool. That's a very neat thing to have. Here's the original window sticker to the car, which is fun to see. This is what would be on the windshield It shows the price that Saleen offered the car at, and there's even some envelopes here to the original owner and all of the original sales documentation, so that's nice to see. A couple of card brochures here we'll look closely at, and they are now signed by Steve. So here's one that's really cool. It shows the race car, and then it shows the exact same black S281 Saleen here. And so with the signature there in the bottom right. So pretty cool to see that. Very nice piece of documentation. I love when you have your actual car on the brochure, so that's fun to see. Here's the corporate office Saleen letter that says thanks for buying the car, and it goes through and talks about some of the different accomplishments from Saleen, and you could pause this and read through it if you'd like. It's pretty fun to see this kind of stuff because usually only owners get to have that. Here you can see the license plate was up, and to the right it shows the $46,519 sale price of the car, and this is the original dealer purchase agreement, or retail installment contract is what the document actually says at the top, and it goes through and has everything there, especially the sales price and down payment. Pretty cool to see this kind of stuff because a lot of this gets thrown away. I love this kind of documentation. I wish all of my cars had this kind of stuff with it. Here's an order form, shows more of the sales price and everything on it. This is the kind of stuff that's so cool, and I do have some of these kinds of things for my cars over the years, but pretty fun to see. Now looking into the Saleen binder, and it talks about all the encouragement your right foot will ever need. This talks about the performance of the car, like I mentioned earlier, with a 13.0 second quarter mile. It shows it compared to other cars in here. Lots of really neat things that show what the Saleen was and the colors it was offered in, and all sorts of little things like that in the booklet. I like that it's in a nice binder here. You have the temporary permit for the car that shows that it's good until February of 2002, showing that it was purchased new. All these little stickers and stuff are cool to see. I have some of these for my car as well. Sometimes the sticker is on the owner's manual. I've seen them on the plastic that the owner's manual comes in. I've seen the sticker on the actual owner's manual. And even the key, sometimes from the dealership, has this information on a little paper tag. I found one in my owner's manual inside that was on the key tag to my 04 GT, and I believe on my 03 Cobra. So pretty cool to see little stuff like this. Here's a Saleen license plate cover. You can put this on the car at a car show or something. Pretty cool to see. And so recently in Washington, there was a 2024 Mustang Roundup, and Steve Saleen actually attended the event, and he brought his big rig hauler, and he brought some cars, an 89 Saleen, the new 2024 Saleen, and Evan helped set up the display, and he asked if it was okay to park his Saleen under there, and they said, yeah. Steve said, yeah, go ahead. And so here you see Steve himself there at the event, and it was really cool. So he got to visit and see the car and sign it and stuff. And you can see a video here of him actually in the car.
20 miles? 13,000. That's like being back in 01, isn't it? It still smells new, in my opinion.
Yeah, everyone's going, wow, this is really, really amazing.
Thank you.
Actually, I don't think they left the factory this good.
And so that was kind of funny how Steve was saying he didn't even think they left the factory that nice because of how great shape this one is. And, the car really is pristine. And so I'm very happy for my friend Evan to have this car and enjoy it. And you can just see the connection here. This picture is really good because it just shows somebody enjoying their car, capturing the moment, and just doing what you should do. Out enjoying, loving your car, cruising around and having fun. So pretty fun that Steve Saleen was involved with this car a little bit, got to talk to the owner. He actually saw the documentation and asked if he could take pictures of it. So that's pretty cool as well. So anyway, cool story, very beautiful car. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video, and stay tuned for more Mustang content.